Pleasure, absolute pleasure, trust me.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Bang on time. Morning, Daydream. Morning. Oh, sorry. I thought someone else just popped up. Um, yeah. Okay. So I'll quickly introduce myself and then, yeah. Good morning, Malibu. You. So I'm Elizabeth Buko, and I help people change the way they think about money so they can start building wealth. I am also the founder of Wealth from Little, and today I'm so excited to have on our conversation today Jazz Rose. He is a property investor here in the UK. He's a dad, and he's also a serial entrepreneur. He has so many passions and he's able to actually take action on those passions. And he's going to tell us a bit more about that. So, before we start, can we just drop in the chat? Where's everyone calling in from while we wait for other people to join us? Where's everyone calling in from? And the second question I want to ask is, what do you hope to gain today? What do you hope to gain from today's session? Let's make sure that we're all in the right room and you actually leave with what you came here for. Good morning, Justina. Good morning, Grace. So right now, I asked the question, where's everyone from? Let's get to know each other. And what do you hope to gain? What's your intention from being here? Okay, South Africa. I hope to gain practical steps to action towards wealth creation. Wonderful, wonderful. Practical steps that she can take towards creating her wealth. That's awesome, Malibu. Great, great. Anybody else? Morning Rose Pot Cells. That's a lovely name. I love it. So, what anybody else want to share with us while people are jumping in, what they hope to gain from today's session? Yeah, morning from Hudson. Yeah, you hope to learn about building a property portfolio. Wonderful, great, great. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Great. So as we've got people now in, maybe we'll hand over to Jazz Rose and he's going to tell us a bit more about himself.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate your time and your energy on this Saturday morning. And yeah, I'm a father of two beautiful children. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started running my first business when I was 17. And we scaled that business up into about 3 million, 150 staff, etc. And I'm at a point in my life now where I pretty much live off the property investments and the investments that I've made over the last 15 or 16 years. And it's a really enjoyable process when you get to a level of financial freedom, financial independence, and really starting to understand that you don't necessarily need an incredible amount of money in order to build wealth, right? And it's all about it starts with your money psychology and understanding how to manage your money and move it into the right places that it's actually going to start working for you. So you then have a choice as to what work you do and what work you don't do, because your passive income is now generating enough to cover your expenses, to cover your lifestyle, and to give you a life of freedom and abundance that you deserve. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. Mute, because I'm getting used to going on mute because I have two wonderful, passionate children, and I just go on mute so that they get introduced on purpose, not by me. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us. So you're a property investor, a serial entrepreneur. You started your first business at 17. Can you okay, let's start step by step.
Yeah.
What was your first business?
So my first business was in education. I used to play football like a lot of many people at sort of 16, 17 years old. And one of the things that I fell into, because I was trying to find a job, you know, getting into Tesco, going into Marks and Spencer's, going into all these retail stores. And my mum was like, get a job, you need to start making money, right? And no one was getting back to me, unfortunately. So, well, fortunately, because it actually worked out, whereas about 9 months after searching for a job, some of the people that I was playing football with, they was like, yeah, come and coach with us. And I've really found a passion for coaching kids sports and getting young girls, especially into sports, helping them to be more active, more physically engaged, because we knew that sports, when we touch on them with sports and they're actively engaged in that, they were much more actively engaged in other areas of their lives as well. And teaching them about independence, teaching them about resilience, confidence, and so on and so forth. And we're doing that through the vehicle of sport. And I expanded that business into educating children about music and foreign languages and all that sort of stuff. And we took the business full time in 2009. And we just simply grew it. It simply became a snowball effect. People knew that I was good at delivering what I was delivering. I then created the content on it. So I created loads of different manuals and said, all right, here, you go and take that, you go and work over there, you go and take that manual, go and work over there. So ultimately we created a process which was going to enable children to really develop their confidence, their cognition, and their creativity. And I then employed a lot of people to go out and deliver it, and I focused on the marketing and sales. And as I say, we grew that business over like last 15, 16 years, and it's been phenomenal. We've worked across some of the greatest schools in the country, and we continue to do so. We continue to thrive, and it's a great sort of elevation point to understand the number of different peaks and troughs that I've been through in running such a business. You know, I think like one of the things that was for me was I always felt like I wanted to have this massive business. I wanted to have this massive big corporation with 300 staff and all that sort of stuff. And you get to a point of realization that the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to manage, right? And the more strict and the more tighter you have to become on your administration, which then almost decreases your creativity in some ways if you're not extremely careful and diligent, right? So we actually scaled it back and able to actually deliver the content and the quality of which we wish to deliver on a consistent basis in order to really create the impact that the children need, require, and deserve.
Wow, wonderful. So you said you started, trying to educate children, and that was something that you're passionate about. Is that because of your own experiences with education?
Yeah, my experiences in education were pretty mediocre at best, and it was just pretty common, right? So we didn't do much sports. My first experience of playing football was playing with a bottle top in the playground because footballs are banned, you know. And I think that schools really failed to realize the power of things like sport, of things like music, of things like foreign languages, drama, and art, because once you tap into a human being's potential, you tap into their confidence. Actually, they're able to express their confidence in so many different ways across multiple different subjects. And it was often the case that the bad children were were really good at sport, or they were really good at music, or they were really good at something else. But actually, it's not that they were bad. It's just that their confidence wasn't tapped into, their creativity wasn't tapped into. So I created a system that enabled our teachers to go in and tap into those children's confidence, tap into their creativity, tap into their cognitive abilities, and to say, well, actually, you're good at sport, or you're good at music, and you can actually transfer it to maths. Here's how you can do it. And we saw improvement in exam results and so on and so forth. And that's what really has made our business stand out and really made us be able to transcend across so many different communities.
Wonderful. So so you started this in 17. Fast forward like a year later, it's time for uni. Can you tell us about going to uni, your experience, and how that was for you?
Yeah, sure. So I got to a stage where I was about 18 years old, and my mum was like, well, you need to go to uni. Grandma was like, you need to go to uni because, this football thing isn't quite working out. So I took a year out to play football, didn't quite work out. I went to uni, absolutely hated it. And I thought, you know what, I can't be here too long. So I studied law at university. Some elements were enjoyable, but the whole university experience I simply found it wasn't for me. I had so much creativity in me. I had so much that I wanted to go out and achieve quickly, right? And the longer I studied laws, the more I realized that you've got to be in this for a long time before you start making any money. You know, there's so many different processes that you've got to go through. It's not like you just come out of law school and you get into a high paying job. No. There's steps, right? So I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna keep on pushing through with my business on the side. So I typically would finish university at like 1, 2 o'clock, and I would race over to get to a school and deliver the clubs and stuff. And it got to a space in 2009 where I actually was able to communicate with a number of our clients and say, hey, we want to take this full time for you. Would that be of value? And 3 of them said yes. I then employed 3 full-time people in 2009, and the business kicked off from there, and I never looked back.
Wow. So how many years did it take from when you started to when it actually kicked off?
So that was 2.5 years. So between 2007 is when 2004 is when I first started, and then 2007 is when we took it full time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes, you know, people start something and in the beginning they see a lot of challenges, they're not making money, it's tough. And
Yeah.
you started 2004 and you were going and going and going. You started 2004, you were 17, you're pushing, your parents came back telling you like this football thing's not working out, you
Mm-hmm.
need to get an
Oh,
education.
yeah. Oh, grandma was furious when I left university. She was like, "No, you can't leave university, grandson. What are you doing?" Because I was one of the first in the family to go to university as well. So it was like, you know,
What year was this that you dropped out?
I dropped out in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, I dropped out in
What
2007. Yeah,
year?
so that
Second
was
year?
my second year. Yeah, my second year. Yeah, so I completed the second year, and then I was like, I'm not coming back.
Wow. With all those student loans as well.
Do you know what? Fortunately enough, I didn't take out any student loans. I lived at home and I traveled in. I was only about 25, 30 minutes from the university. So that was very fortunate for me. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back from university, you dropped out, you're trying to push this business full time. Up until now, your parents, your mom, your grandma hasn't seen any success.
Hmm.
Your grandma hasn't seen any success.
Yeah.
And now you dropped out. Like, do you how do you prove that you're going to start making money? And how did you transition to start actually making money and building wealth for yourself, investing?
Yeah, great point. So a couple of things that I'd like to mention on that, right? First is when you start a business, is to invest your time, not your money, right? So invest your time before your money, because a lot of people think that, oh, well, I need this amount of money in order to start a business. No. So what I did, and what's possible for many people in many different sectors and industries, is to go into the business, invest your time and energy, create the income. So I was delivering all of these sessions myself, creating the income that I was then able to utilize in order to invest in marketing, in order to invest later down the line in property and that sort of stuff. So actually people say to me, oh, well, how much did your business cost to start up? And I'm like, that's just a fashionable, trendy thing to say, but actually it didn't cost me anything but my time and energy. So that's a powerful tool in terms of building wealth from little. You don't necessarily need money, but you do need time and energy if you don't have the money. And then the second thing is, like, when I quit university, I quit on a clear understanding. So one of the things that I learned from quite young through reading and etc. was to make sure that you have continual income, right? CI, continual income. And what that means is that you don't necessarily have to rely on a sales pipeline or on an opportunity in order to get paid. So I had a clear and consistent income by creating contracts, right? So then I created contracts with the schools to say that, essentially, in short, no matter what happens, unless we do something crazy, right? No matter what happens, you're paying us £45,000. That's it, right? So, and we deliver the service and we get paid. So it's about creating a contract. So when I essentially explained to my mum and my grandma, hey, this year, if I don't move a muscle, if I don't go into any new schools, if I don't do any work whatsoever, I'm guaranteed to make £45,000. They were like, okay, this makes sense, you know? So it's about creating that contract revenue and that continual income that then empowers you to be able to then make effective and efficient decisions. And I also know, like, a lot of people, even in the same industry and multiple different other industries, that didn't do that, and they were sort of like charging by the day, and they're like, you can charge more by the day for example, right? And people get caught into this trap. Oh, well, you can charge 20% more if you charge per day. And they get into this kind of like get rich quick kind of mentality, where I was like, no, 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 I'd rather make less money, but ensure that it's 100% secured, rather than always chasing the pound and thinking about, well, if this happens, if this circumstances happen, if the school closes down, if it's a snow day, if kids can't make it into school, or if one of my staff can't get there, whatever, then we're getting paid irrespective of what happens. So I'd much rather that security rather than chasing the income and trying to always work hard to make the money come for us.
Wonderful. So, okay, so you had this contract bringing in 45,000 in a year.
Yeah.
Right. And how did you decide, okay, I'm going to buy my first house?
Okay, great. So once I knew I was making a minimum of £40,000 a year, I think that year we ended up doing about 60,000. And what I did was essentially I saved a minimum of 50% of my income each year. So let's just say hypothetically it was around 25,000 each year, and then I ended up taking that 75,000 over the course of the 3 years and investing it in my first property, plus any extra change that I can get my hands on, and invested that in my first property in West London. And yeah, that was simply the route to success in terms of getting on that property ladder, getting out of my parents' house, and getting into my own home. And a lot of people, like, they think, like, for example, a lot of my peers, they were moving out at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and saying to me and sort of hinting, why don't you move out of your parents' house? And I was like, I've got a plan, and it's all about thinking about what is your long-term plan? What is your medium to long-term plan? And how are you going to get there, right? So I could have easily got caught in the trap of thinking, oh, I'm making money, let me go and rent somewhere, or let me go and stay, or let me go and live in a nice apartment somewhere. But I had a longer term plan, and I think that's really important for other people to understand as well, is to think, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years, and then what steps am I going to need to take in order to get there, and get there in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, that's so important, because when we are thinking of building wealth, a lot of us think of getting there, getting whatever we want so quickly. And that is, it's nice and it's exciting, but it's also important to have this 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and then kind of reverse engineer it. Like, what do I need to do today to make sure that I'm getting closer to my goal? So that's great. So you decided, you saved, you were making 45,000 a year, and you were saving 50% of all you made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, especially when you're young, you don't necessarily need to spend money. And I think we've grown up in a society where we live in a very consumerism culture, and we feel that we need to spend on this and we need to spend on that. When actually, if you really start to strip back and really start to think about where our expenses are going, what we need and what we want is vastly different. So if we want to, for example, purchase a property, and say you make 30,000 a year, and you're thinking, oh, but there's no way based upon my current expenses and my current income that I can save 15,000 a year. Yes, you can, right? It might take you moving back in with a friend. It might take you moving back in with somebody and cutting that $7,500 a year rent or whatever it might be, right? And then saving that money in order to then move and manifest your future in the way that you want it. You want for it to be created, rather than responding to society's norms and cultures and going, actually, well, I need to spend on these nice things. I need to spend on these nice things. I need to have this nice car. I need to have this nice house because I need to keep up with the Joneses. No. Have your plan, create it. It doesn't matter. Like, I started young and I was quite fortunate. It doesn't matter if you're 30, 40. You know what? Start now with a clear plan. I know someone that actually used to live in one of my houses, and he was like he was about 50s, he's in his 50s basically. He was in his 50s when I met him, and he was like, I've got a clear plan. And he stayed there for about 7 years, and then he built and then when he invited me to his new house, I was like, whoa. And you might think to yourself, oh, why is a 50-year-old man staying in a shared accommodation essentially, and only rented a room? But he was able to then store so much money that he was able to go and invest and buy a beautiful property for himself years down the line.
Wow, wonderful. That is really remarkable. Well done to him. So you bought your first property. May I ask, was there anything that pushed you? Like, where did you get this mindset from to, with, you said you had all these friends telling you to move out. You have this, you know, all the people around you saying, go to school, people around you saying, move out, like everyone telling you should do this. Where did you get the mindset to say, to create this plan in the first place?
Yeah, I think two things really. Number one is the sort of foundation that I have from my mom and my family, and you sort of pick up these subconscious cues. My mom was very sensitive about money and how to use it and how to manage it. You know, my mom was one of those one of those pre-entrepreneurs before entrepreneurialism was even a word, right? My mom was knitting on the side, she was babysitting on the side, she was dropping kids to school on the side, she was renting out the garage on the side, and all of these things are like subliminal cues that helped me to be able to set up my finances in a way that actually I want to save, I want to invest, I want to do things. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like she had, you know, millions of pounds or anything like that, but it was a mindset that my mum was like, I'm working in order to create something, and that instilled in me. The second thing that really was instilled in me was through sport, which taught me a lot about resilience, taught me a lot about confidence. No. If you want something, Mr. Jazz Rose, you could actually go and get that. Right? If you want to do something, or if you fall down, you know what? You have to get back up, right? And it's not a case of how you feel, how you think, how you behave. No. Get up and go and create, right? Because you are the creator of what it is that you are responsible for. And I know that I'm responsible for my development. I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my world that I create. And through sport, it was a really resilient and confidence that came out of me that I was able to think, you know what? I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Wonderful. That is really important, like resilience, building resilience so that you can keep pushing.
Yeah.
You know, we will all be facing I think everyone faces obstacles. It's not like you are born with like a paycheck to have anything that you wanted. Like you did have to create everything that you wanted for yourself. And I get that resilience is so important because we face constant obstacles, even those in our mind, like fears of, oh, what if this doesn't work? You know, and I imagine that might have been something that you might have faced when you started the business, and 2004 passed, 2005 passed, 2006 passed, you got back to uni, and and you're thinking, what if this doesn't work? And then you say, okay, I'm going to quit it. I'm going to quit uni and face this. And people are asking you, what if it doesn't work? And that resilience needs to keep pushing. Like, the only person that's going to make things work for you is yourself.
100%.
Like, you need to make it work. Like, things will not always go smoothly. It might be tough at times, probably most of the time, you know, initially, but it's that curve, you know, like that growth curve where in the beginning it's kind of flat, but after you keep pushing and you pushing, it starts to escalate, and then it exponentially grows. You know, but it's like, literally, it's almost like life tests us that, do you really want this, or are you just messing with me, right? And you can keep pushing past the point of, yes, I really do want this. Then you start seeing the results that you really want. That's so remarkable, right? That is so remarkable. You're like, that resilience is so, and when you build that resilience, it's very funny that you're able to transfer it to so many other areas.
Yes.
You're able to like grow so much faster. Okay, so you bought your first property.
Yeah.
How many properties do you have now?
I have 9 at the moment and 2 currently going through.
9 at the moment and 2 going through, and it's a pandemic.
But you know what? One of them I'm actually quite upset about, because I actually purchased a property about 3-4 years ago. Bought it off plan, and it's now almost ready for completion. So sort of preparing the final bits on the mortgage for that. But if I knew what I know now in terms of investing, right, I never would have spent that £60,000 on that new build property, because
okay, pause there. Let's rewind to what you did to get that 9, and then tell us what you know now that you should have known.
Right.
That would have stopped you buying this particular property.
Yeah, sure. So the way that I got the 9 was a simple recycling effect of the way that I got the first one, right? Was to save approximately 50% of my income and then use the residual in order to invest in property. So I lived a very low expense lifestyle, right? And one of the things that I did quite early on, which was which was sort of very unusual for my peers, etc., right, was when I was in my property before, I rented out the rooms, right? So therefore I never paid the full amount on the mortgage, right? So therefore people would look at me and think, oh well, you must be making millions of pounds in this education business, and being looking at it from a certain angle. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just that my expenses are extremely low, therefore I don't need to spend much money in order to live, and therefore I'm able to invest the surplus, right? So I'm saving as much as I can, and then investing typically 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a year into a new property investment. So I did that pretty much every couple of years, or every year over the last 10 years, and that's why I'm at where I'm at now, in a place where those properties are able to pay for the expenses that I have and the lifestyle that I have.
Right. So okay, you bought your first property at 23, right?
It's
And
on your maths. I love it.
yeah, I'm good at math. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. So you bought your first property at 23, and you did that by saving 50% of your income. You were making 45,000, you were saving 50%, and you put down a down payment, right?
Yeah.
How much down payment did you put down?
On the first one, it was around 85,000.
So okay, you put down a down payment. I meant in percentage.
What did,
Like,
oh, right. So what percentage? So yeah, the first one is 10%. Yeah, 10%, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
yeah. And then you moved, so you moved into that place, then you
Yeah.
rented out the rooms in that house so
Yeah.
that your housemates were paying your mortgage.
Correct.
Right. So now you're able to continue to save 50% of your income while getting income from the other rooms in your house. And then you took that money to put down a deposit on your second house.
Correct.
And you kept doing that. And then you rented that house out and put people in it as well.
So say that last bit again.
And then your second property, did you rent that out and put people in it?
Correct. Yeah. So I rented that out and rented it out by the room again. Yeah.
And put it people, and then they kept paying the mortgage. You rented it out, they kept paying the mortgage. They kept paying the mortgage, and you were saving the deposit out by putting down 50% of your income in a savings pot. So it was just constant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. That is such a simple recipe. Like,
yeah.
You're saving 50%, buying a property that you can afford with that 50%, renting all the rooms out, getting the money from the rooms to pay the mortgage, and then you just continue building. And so you built up to 9, and then what happened? Like, what was this big realization that you have seen in this last year that makes you think that I should not have bought this particular house?
Yeah, sure. So there's two things that I want to touch on in that, right? The first is, like, education is important in property, understanding all of the different types of investment, and understanding what your goals are, and then what's the shortest path for me to get to my goals, right? Mm-hmm. So the mistake that I made was not really understanding all of the different types of investment and which ones were going to be most powerful for me, right? So I knew what my goals were, but I didn't necessarily know what investment practice was going to be most powerful. So what I did was I tried and tested lots of different ones, right? So I tried and tested buying off plan. I tried and tested HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. I tried and tested single lets, and I did that for about 7 years. And I wanted to track what was the growth, what was the capital appreciation, what was the rental income that I was getting from each of those different types of investments. So essentially, I made the mistake myself, and I realized that, buying off plan was the weakest of all of the different types of investments in terms of what I personally wanted to achieve, and investing in things like houses of multiple occupation, where you have a 3-bed house, you convert one of the living rooms into a bedroom. Also, you have a 4-bed house now, and you rent it out room by room. That was what has worked most powerfully for me in terms of aligning with what I wanted to create in terms of my wealth and my freedom. In saying that, I would say to people, and I want to be clear to people, is that although they're my mistakes, I own them fully, right? Mm-hmm. And also, I still make money from them. So it's not like oh no, never invest in this because you'll never make money. No, I'm just saying that as opposed to making £200 a month on this property with my 60,000 that I invested, actually I should have been making 1,200. But and I now I understand the processes of which I could have utilized it better, right? But don't hold yourself back so much from investing and spend 5 years trying to learn about the perfect strategy in order to get it perfect, because it's very unusual that you're going to get it perfect. There's ups and downs, but make sure that you learn as much as you can, as quick as you can, and then make the move to start investing, because either way you're still going to make money from it, even if you make a quote unquote bad investment. Unless you make a really, it's harder to make a really bad investment than it is to make a sensible investment, an investment where you make some profit from it.
Yeah, wonderful. So so what you're saying is that everyone has a unique way of investing that is unique to them and to their goals. So just because you hear, and so true, like right now information is free, right? You can go on Google and type, how do I start investing? How do I make £1 million? How do I do anything? How do I start a business? Or what type of business should I start? And that is very powerful question, because Google will give you like 3 billion answers, right? And there are going to be 3 billion different ways that you should start it. And that can leave people very confused and like stuck, because, or taking the wrong thing that is not really best for them. So everyone has a unique way of that, you have your own unique goals, and you have your own unique way that you're going to use to build them. Some people build wealth even in property investing through, investing in a particular way. And you're saying that for you, you found out that HMOs were the best route for you. But there are so many other ways that people have made money in property, and you need to do the research and, educate yourself in terms of other ways. And also, while you're educating yourself and doing the research and knowing that your way to building your wealth is going to be completely different from some other person's way, still also give yourself a break. Like, it's not going to be perfect as well, right? It's not going to be perfect straight off the bat. So give yourself some grace that I'm building wealth. Mistakes are just feedback. It's just feedback that this isn't working for you the way you wanted to. Adjust, right? Mistakes are just feedback. They are not a hint that you should stop and never move forward again, or just hold back, right? And for some people, investing in properties the way, some people, they will invest in stocks, some people will invest in their business, some people will invest in themselves, and some people will invest in all. You invest in all, and any mistakes that you feel is feedback. What you shouldn't give into is definitely the fear that, what if it doesn't work? What if it fails? What if things don't work out the way you want? That definitely does hold you back. So you now have 2 properties that you said are going through now during this pandemic that we're experiencing. And yet, there's so much news around and so much fear around people losing money, losing jobs, how this pandemic is disastrous for people financially, how there's a recession. How has the pandemic been with you and your business and your investments?
Yeah, do you know what? It's been a really exciting transition. Like the amount of stuff that we have, the amount of stuff that we tend to manage and maintain in our lifestyle that we don't actually need, that is actually causing us more stress, more anxiety, more pressure than is necessary, is simply incredible. So the pandemic, yeah, it affected for example, the education business. It had an impact on that, right? And we lost a much higher number of clients, and we weren't able to attract any new clients. So clients are like, schools are like, well, we're closed down. We don't even know when we're opening up. So, and I assume that will turn over the coming months once COVID starts to slow down and stuff. But like, it was such a realization that we have so much excess, right? And even in our company, we had so much excess, right? We had so much excess staff, we had so much excess office space, we had so much excess of this, we had so much excess of that. And it's like, once you strip all that back, actually, you're a lot more wealthy, you're a lot more affluential than you ever thought of before, because you might be making X amount, and you can scale that back to your personal life. You can scale that back to a £30,000 income, right? Whether you're making £300,000, £3 million, or £30,000, right? Your expense ratio is where it sits, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're making £3 million a year, right? You're making £3 million a year and you're spending 3.5 because you've got all these excess stuff, right? Then essentially you're broke, right? So it's all about how you manifest and how you think about your money and how you move it in a way that is going to be powerful for you, and in terms of saving and investing the surplus, getting rid of so much excess. I remember I was speaking to my cousin about 4 months ago, and I said, "Oh, bro, like, I've just sold something on eBay. I just want to sell this thing on eBay. How do I do it?" And he talked me through the process. So I put it on eBay, and he was like, "Yeah, bro, be careful, like, because this eBay thing is a little bit addictive. I sell lots of stuff on eBay all the time." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting, whatever." And I said to him, "I don't have anything in my house to sell anyway." Do you know, once I sold that first thing, it started a chain effect, and I was like, I don't need that. I don't need that lamp. I don't need that. I don't need those clothes over there. I sold so much stuff. It ended up selling over like £3,000 worth of stuff. And I see myself as a minimalist person. And before, I'm a very minimalist person. I don't keep a lot of stuff around. So even for me, as a minimalist in the way that many people would see it, right? I was able to sell so much excess stuff, and again, use that powerfully to be able to then invest it into creating what I want to create for my future. So the pandemic has been very interesting because it's being able to visualize and clearly see that I have so much excess stuff in my personal life. I have so much excess stuff in my business. And actually, once I scale it all back, I'm able to actually move a lot more freely. I'm actually able to move more powerfully. I'm actually able to move with more authenticity and more power because I've got rid of all the excess. I've got rid of all the stuff that was slowing me down.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I just want to say, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat for Jazz. But I want to ask you, Jazz, if you could tell us, like, step by step, how do we, start to create and then grow our wealth? Like, now, let's say I'm sitting down in my room, I'm in my mid-40s, I'm sitting down and I want to create this, I want to build wealth for myself and for my family. Mm-hmm. How do I start? Like, from now, like, what would be the first things, what steps should I start taking so that I can get to this place where I can start investing in property? What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is to track your income and expenses. Get a money tracker that enables you to track what income you have coming in and what expense you have coming out. If you then start to look at the steps to success in terms of building wealth, right? So I've got to now ask myself, okay, do I have an emergency fund, right? I need to have an emergency fund of at least £1,000. If something breaks down, boiler goes, car goes, whatever, I need to have that in a separate account, and make sure it's in a separate account, because if you have it in your current account, you're going to see a nice little thing over there and you're going to go, ooh, beautiful, and go and buy it, right? So get an emergency fund first and foremost. The second, well, get a money tracker, right? Get an emergency fund, then get yourself out of debt. Getting debt free is one of the most powerful things that you can do in terms of building a foundation for building your wealth for the future, right? Because a lot of people think, oh yeah, but the percentage of interest rate is really low, whatever. The borrower is slave to the lender, right? So you've got to get rid of that excess debt and then start to build your wealth going forward from there. Then you want to scale up your emergency fund. So you want to go from 1,000 to making sure that you have a minimum of 3 months of expenses stored in that emergency account. Once you've got to that level, then you want to start looking at, okay, so where do I want to invest? What are my actual financial goals, right? So once you understand your financial goals, you can say, okay, now I need to save a percentage of my income. And then based upon your money tracker, you can then start to pick and choose what percentage of your income that you start to save and invest. It's not a quick strategy, right? So once you're saving and investing 15, 20, 25% of your income, then you're able to put that away, put it into a separate account, never look at it, never touch it. It's not yours. Go away, keep it over there, right? It's not yours, right? The government takes a percentage of your income as soon before you get your money. So
Mm.
you now got to learn the same discipline and go, that money is not mine, it belongs to my future, right? So then put that 15, 20, 25% as much as you can away and play a little game with yourself. See what percentage of, once you have a money tracker, play a little game with yourself. What percentage of my income can I save? Last month I saved 9%. That's good. How do I get to 10? It doesn't have to be vast, but if you up it by 1% each month, right? Simply by putting an extra £20 in, simply putting an extra £10 in a month, right? You're gonna up it by 1%, 2% each month. Over time, you start to scale. Over the course of a year, oh, I'm now saving 30% of my income. Oh, that's incredible. Oh, now instead of having £2,000 in the savings account, I've now got 15. Great. What can I do with it? Where can I invest it? I can invest it in bonds. I can invest it in stocks and shares. I can invest it in property. I now have options. And this is what money creates for us. It creates options of where we're going to put our money. And then the thing that you want to do after that is, after you've started saving and investing, is then making sure that if you have children or you're planning to have children, that you're saving and investing for them, right? So then you want to start to put a regular amount aside in order for them to, in order so that they now, when they grow up, they don't have to go into a cycle of debt because you've already funded for their university fees, that sort of thing. Once you've done that, then you can start really powerfully investing in either property, stocks and shares, bonds, whatever it is that you choose to invest in. And then over time, your wealth will gradually and surely build. And this is the joy of compound interest, right? Which most of us know about now, which is fantastic. I never knew about compound interest until I was 30, right? So compound interest is simply your interest making more money for you, your interest making interest. And as you multiply this over time, this is where you start to build phenomenal wealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So let's say we wanted, thank you for that. Actually, that is actually really useful. So the first step is to track your money, know where your money is actually going, right? You know, I tend to say to people that your money is like you're a faithful employee. It should be a faithful employee. So you need to make sure that like you know what your money is doing and you're telling it to do what you want it to do. So first know where your money is going, and then, you know, but start tackling debt, right? That was the second step. Like start tackling debt, put some money in your emergency fund, at least £1,000. And then Jazz said that we should move it and start growing that emergency fund so that we have at least 3 months of expenses saved, right? And then after that, we save for our children if we plan to have any. And then we start actually truly pounding at the wealth creation account, right? So you're putting 5%, you're pushing it to 6, you're pushing it to 7, 8, 9, 10, you're pushing the amount that you're able to put in that account. And then you're able to now have options as to how you want to grow your money, how you actually want to grow your wealth. You can invest it in you know, in companies, in stocks, in shares, in property, and obviously if you want to invest it in property, as you know, like Jazz does, for example, or you want to invest it in stocks and shares and take advantage of compound interest. So let's say we now are at the point where we have grown our money, we want to invest it in property. What steps do we go through so that we can start investing in property?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the first thing you've got to do is find out where you want to invest, right? Once you know your goal, find out where you want to invest. So, okay, my goal is to make sure that I have a property that, for example, my son or my daughter has a property to move into when they're 18, right? So that's my goal. Or I'm able to pull that money out of that property and then pay for their university fees. Okay, so now where can I go that's going to give me that return? My son and my daughter is now 2 years old, say, right? So let's say I've got 16 years, right, now to invest this money before I pull the money out. So where am I going to go that the property price is now X, and when I'm ready to pull it out in 16 years time, it's going to give me Y. So where can I go now that I can invest £30,000, say, now, and then in 16 years time, when my children are 18, then I'm able to pull it out and that property has grown, let's say 50% in value, right? Where can I do that? And the way that you start looking at it, you need to look at Rightmove, you need to look at Zoopla, and then you need to hone into an area. Let's take, for example, let's say Huddersfield, right? So I'm going to look at Huddersfield and I'm going to say, what are the recent prices of these properties? How much have they grown over the last 20 years? Let's do a little bit of research on Huddersfield. Do they have growth potential, right? What investment is going on over there? So, for example, a big thing that's been happening over the last 5 years or so is in HS2. Right, so now we're going to have high-speed rail going from places like Birmingham, high-speed rail going from places like Manchester. And we're going to have quicker access routes into the city centre like London, right? So these things now are going to start to recreate the price points of the places where these high-speed trains are running. So wherever you've got HS2, you've got growth potential, all right? And then that's going to start creating the infrastructure that's going to allow the capital to appreciate on the property that you purchased. So understanding your goal, then understand the location of where you're going to purchase, and then understand, okay, what kind of size of property do I want? And what kind of size do I want? Do I want a 2-bed? Do I want a 3-bed? What is my money going to be able to afford, right? And then you want to start tapping into local estate agents. Can I come and view? And I would always say, do lots of viewings of properties, because it's going to give you a real good feel for the area, right? A real good feel for the area. Like sometimes you can purchase, I remember I purchased a property on a street that was £159,000, right? And that was a 4-bed house, 3-bed converted it to 4. Right? And then across the road, literally across the road, about a 2-minute walk, right? There was a 1-bed flat on sale for £160,000. No, the house was 140. Sorry, the house was 140. The 1-bed flat was 160 across the road. Why? More prestigious neighborhood, right? So all of these things you have to take. Don't just say, oh, that area is good, go and invest in that area. No, because it's like you can walk down a different road and the price point could be completely different. The market could be completely different, right? So you need to start to understand. And that's why I always say to view a lot of properties if you want to invest in property, and then make sure that you make a solid and sensible choice. Always get at least the perspective of at least 3 agents or 3 professionals in that area that can tell you what it's going to rent out for. Once you know what it's going to rent out for and what you're going to purchase it for, then you start to know, okay, what is going to be my return on my investment? What is going to be my gross yield? What is going to be my net yield? And you really want to start to look at what are my expenses going to be, and then how much am I going to make on the back? Okay, great. So I'm going to make £400 a month profit off this property once I've paid all of my estate agency fees, once I've paid all of my expenses. Great. I'm going to make £400 a month. And in 10 years, based upon my projections and my understandings, I'm going to make it. This property is now valued at 200,000. In 10 years, it's now going to be worth 350. Great. That gives me £150,000 worth of equity in 10 years. Okay, cool. This is a solid investment for me and what I'm trying to achieve. So these are the sorts of things that you need to think about, as well as then the next step is to make sure that you get a good mortgage broker and a good solicitor. Always get the ones that work in tandem together, because they're able to process your sale a lot quicker, right? So a mortgage broker and a solicitor that work side by side, and then they can start to move that transaction forward for you. Otherwise, you're going to be playing piggy in the middle, going back to the solicitor, back the mortgage broker will be like, oh, I ain't got that from the solicitor. The solicitor like, I ain't got that from the mortgage broker. And then you end up being some crazy person in the middle, not knowing what's going on, right? So try and get the ones that work together, and then, yeah, simply go and invest, make the purchase, and rent it out with a good estate agent if that's what you want to do, unless you really have the time and energy to manage it yourself. And then, yeah, that's the investing process. Go and invest and win. Go and win with money. Make it work for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. That was like a whole, a really step-by-step, like how to do that. Thank you so much. So, okay, we start investing and we've bought the first property. We've done some research. We know which areas have growth. We know which areas have growth potential for our goals based on what we want to build in the future for ourselves or for our family. And we do this. Now, how do we scale up to 2? So I'm still the same person. I've put in all I have. Every single penny in my savings account has gone into the deposit and the bills for the first house. I've now rented it out. It's bringing me income. a month, maybe £1,000 a month. How do I now scale to my second house? Maybe 2 years later, I now want to buy my second property. How would I do that?
There's one magic word for that: refinance.
Hmm.
Refinance, right? So I marvelously, after about 7 years of investing, I only learned about this about 3 or 4 years ago. um Literally, I think I heard about it on like something on YouTube or something like that, and I was like, nah, this is not possible. I rang up my bank of my previous property, and I was like, yeah, I need to refinance my property. I was like, yeah, okay, no problem, just answer a few questions, it's going to take about 15 minutes. I said, okay, no problem. I was thinking, okay, this is never going to happen. It's never going to work for me. Anyway, it turns out they were like, yeah, well, tell you what, not a problem. Based upon your circumstances and equity in your home, we'll send you £90,000 and your new mortgage amount is going to be X. And I said, sorry? She said, yeah, well, in about 3 months' time, we'll send you £90,000. And I said, no. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, you're kidding me. This is unreal, right? This is not truthful. And I didn't actually believe it until they actually sent me the £90,000 in my account. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. So you can actually pull the equity out of your home and then reinvest it. What I would say to people, because I know and have experienced a lot of situations where people refinance in order to purchase liabilities. Don't do that. Don't refinance and increase your mortgage amount in order to purchase liabilities, in order to go on holiday, in order to buy new sofas, in order to, I would even steer away from it if possible, to avoid doing things like extensions and stuff like that, right? Because all you're doing is you're increasing your expenses. You're having a lifestyle increase now without gaining any asset from it. Okay, yes, with an extension, you're going to grow an asset over time, but the amount that you're losing on the front end is way too much and way more than is essential, right? Unless that's like really the thing that you have to do in order to support your family, then go and do that. But if you can avoid it, making sure that you're refinancing in order to invest in an asset that's going to produce more income for you. So for example, for me, my mortgage amount went up by about £230 or so per month, right? And I was comfortable with that because I knew I was going to take that £90,000 and make an extra £500 a month from a different investment, right? So that's the sort of process of thinking that we need to be aware of and that we need to go through.
Wonderful. So you're saying like you only found out 3 years ago that you could use the equity on your properties to actually finance new properties. And this is something that you didn't know when you started because you just went for it and you kept on saving. Okay, so now the hardest bit seems like just getting into the habit of saving for the first property.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've got the first property, you can, wait, you have it for a couple of years, and then you can refinance it when the equity builds to reinvest in another asset, in another property that can build your wealth, right? Where you're now making more money and you're able to pay off the excess in your new mortgage and still have a profit.
Yeah, there you go. And that's when you start to get your money working for you.
And then that's your money working as a loyal employee, really going to work and making more money for you. Because now that 90,000 that you took, you put it in a new property. The increase, you're paying an extra 230 because you took out that 90, but you're making the extra 500, which you can pay off the excess in your old property, and you still have a leftover of £270 in your pocket every month that you're still saving.
100%.
Wonderful. And then you use that. And then you use that £270 extra towards the mortgage of you. And then you have to do the calculation that the 270 is going to be more than enough to take care of that new mortgage.
100%. 100%. So imagine doing that every 2 years for 10 years. Right, and each property that you gain, even on a small scale, is making you £500 a month, right? So that's £500 now times 5 different properties, right? Now you can retire.
Literally. But now you're making enough money to take care of your expenses, and pay off your properties, and you don't literally have to work again. And is that where you find yourself now, Jazz?
Yeah, absolutely. And I work powerfully because I choose, and I don't like to use the word work. Okay? It has way too many connotations for me. I create, I'm a creator, right? So anything that is a repeated process, I don't do that. I create, I visualize, I create something, and then I put it into action and I make it happen. And then all of the replicated stuff that happens behind the scenes, I get technology, or I employ or invest in other people in order to create that for me as much as possible. So yeah, for me, it's about leaving a legacy and living a legacy and living a life that I love for my family and the people around me, and spending my time, because our time is our most valuable resource. And once we have our time, we start to operate in much more of a powerful manner. We start to move things in a way that they weren't necessarily moving before. And we start to make sure that we are fulfilled as who we are, as opposed to who we're reacting to be.
That's wisdom right there. Yeah. So we are actually being fulfilled in who we are, as opposed to who we are reacting to be, right?
Mm.
That is so powerful. So guys, please, before I summarize, you can drop in the chat if you have any questions. Yola said great insight with regards to refinancing to increase your assets rather than liabilities. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it's not even just using your money, you're also using I was gonna say you're also using some of the bank's money as well to work for you and provide you with an income. That is really remarkable. And with that strategy, you literally have built your wealth from little.
Yeah, there you go. Don't have to be, you don't have to earn £1 million to be a millionaire, and there's so many different ways that we're able to move money that most of us aren't aware of, that simply we need to bring it into our perspective, bring it into our visual alignment, speak to people that have known about it and done these sorts of moves before, and actually we're able to move more powerfully. Like when I purchased this property, imagine, right, I'm on Rightmove, and I used to do this thing, and I'm looking at properties like 3 million, these luxury properties, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have one of these in about 5 years, right? So I posted this picture. I think this particular one that I posted was about 2.5 million, right? And I said, I'm gonna have one of these in about 5 years. Yeah, I have no idea how I'm gonna get there, right? Because I'm not making a ridiculous amount. I just have no idea, right? But I visualize that I can create it somehow. So I put it up on my WhatsApp story, and then my friend says to me, "You ain't got 5 years. You've got 1 year." And I started to think, interesting. Instead of thinking, no, I can't do that, it's not possible, I don't have enough money, I start thinking, how can I do that, right? So then I start thinking, actually, I really want a property like this. Actually, I've been thinking about getting a property like this for the last 5 years, and I haven't got it yet, right? I've been posting these stories. I remember, I can look in my story history, right? And I thought to myself, okay, so how can I do it? I thought, you know what? What's more important to me now? Is it the 4 properties that I have over there that I can sell and then go and invest in this property, or is it me actually move into this property? So is it more important to me to move into my dream home, or is it more important to me to keep 4 of the properties that I already own? And I said, you know what, I made a decision. I said, you know what, it's more important for me to move into my dream home. So I said, okay, I'm going to put these 3 properties. I'm going to put these 3 properties on the market. I'm going to sell them. I'm going to move to my dream home. That's what I'm going to do. Right. So then I put these 3 properties on the market, and trials and tribulations as they occur, right?
What happened? Tell us your trials.
Well, I put my old house on the market, right? And 3 times, long story short, 3 times in a row, consecutively, they fell through. So got a buyer, accepted. 2 months later, this buyer is no longer proceeding. Got another buyer, accepted, all going through. 2 months later, this is no longer being accepted. So anyway, before I got actually put the properties on the market, I just started going around viewing like these £1 million homes, and I was like, this is beautiful, this is beautiful. And I saw the ones that I loved and the one that I'm living in now, and I thought, this is amazing, right? How can I get this? So then I thought, okay, right, put the offer in, got it accepted, and then I was like, put the other properties on the market, right? So they're like, oh, well, how many properties have you got to sell? I'm like, well, I'm going to sell one, it's not a problem. You like kind of evading the question, right? Because like my mortgage advisor was like, like, don't tell them you got free to sell, otherwise they won't sell to you, right? No, this chain is way too long, right? So anyway, long story short, it's like the free buyers fell through, the properties weren't selling, they weren't moving. And then I spoke to my mortgage advisor and I was like, look, I already put down a £10,000 deposit on this house because it's a new build and this is kind of like the process. But these properties are not moving, right? So what can I do? She said, you know what you can do, right? Is if you rent out your existing home where you're at, right? Remortgage it, then you would rent that out and then gain from the profit from that, that will increase the amount that the bank will lend to you for your new home because they see that you're automatically making more money from this rental property. And I said, that's interesting. Can we do that? Let's move on that one for me. And lo and behold, about a month and a half later, we had that property remortgaged, right? And rented out all of the rooms. That's a 3-bedroom house, right? No, 4-bedroom house, 3-bedroom, converted to loft. It's now 4-bedroom. It's now renting out as 6 rooms, right? Because it has an office on the outside. It has an office on the outside and 5 bedrooms inside. So perfect. And that is my highest growth. That is my highest property. It brings me in about £2,000 a month profit after all the expenses. And now I'm living in my dream home. So essentially, my old home paid for the dream home.
Wow.
So I might have been thinking, well, that's going to be a high mortgage. I can never afford that. But actually now I've got an extra £2,000 a month from the old property. Of course I can. Not a problem. The old house pays for the new house.
Pays for the dream home. So your old property now pays the mortgage for your, dream home. And you've been looking at these £1 million houses forever. You saw this £2.5 million house and you were like, I'll get this in 5 years. And if you stuck with, I'll get this in 5 years, you would have probably gotten it in 5 years. But then someone challenged your thinking saying, no, you're going to get it in a year. And you were like, I'm not making that type of money. How will I buy a £2.5 million house in the next year? So you decided, okay, I'm going to sell my 3 properties so I can buy this one. You're trying to sell it. Obstacles. And you've put down the money for this new house.
Yeah.
And you can't sell the other houses. And it's like, people would be going crazy. Like, oh, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose my deposit. I'm going to lose the new house. And I'm going to still be, stuck with the 3 properties. And I'm going to be £10,000 less.
Yeah.
But because you were thinking, how can I do this? How can you do this? And you started speaking with your mortgage advisor. He came up with this awesome plan. And you rearranged how you turned your old house into a 6-bedroom house, rented out all the rooms, the loft, the office, and the sitting room as bedrooms, because it was a 3-bedroom house with the loft and the office and the sitting room. And then you got the money coming in a year so that you could afford the mortgage for your new house and also afford, the bank will also give you the loan so that you could, pay for you could get the mortgage for the new house. 100%. And then now that house is actually paying your bills.
100%.
So you actually just put down 10,000 and there's nothing else that you're doing and you're living in your £1 million house.
There you go. Actually, it ended up being 20,000 because later down the line, once I had signed the contracts and everything to say that I was going to purchase the house and obviously paid the 10,000, the sellers basically said to me, well, look, you're due to complete on, I can't remember the exact date, but you're due to complete on the 28th of December 2018, right? It's now 5th of January. So now we're putting the property back on the market, right?
Wow.
We're not selling to you anymore. You've passed your purchase date, Mr. Rose, right? So there's no property for you. So I said to the estate agent, I said, give me the number of the developer, right? I need to speak to this person directly. So through a couple of conversations, I spoke to him directly and I said, what is it that we can create, that we can work out in order to ensure that I purchase this property? And we ended up saying, okay, you've got 28 days to complete, not a problem. And you need to pay me an extra 10,000 deposit. So I said to myself, interested, I'll call you back. And I thought to myself, well, if I spend £20,000 and I don't complete within 28 days, I've lost £20,000. But guess what? I've got a phenomenal story to tell. So I was like, is it more important to, like, what what am I going to be more fearful of in 20 years, 10, 20 years time? Am I going to be more fearful to say, you know what, I had an opportunity to purchase my dream home and I didn't go for it? Or am I going to be more fearful in saying I lost £20,000? And I was thinking to myself, you know what? If I lose £20, A, I've got a great story to tell. And B, I'm never going to have this opportunity again, because I was looking around and I'm thinking, okay, so if I want to purchase this type of dream home, it's going to cost me at least an extra 300,000 based upon what I'm purchasing this home for. So I said, you know what, 20 grand, risk it or leave it like a biscuit. So I said, risk it, right? And I went for it and I completed on the 28th day exactly. You know what happened the next day?
What?
You know what happened the next day? I completed on my dream home, and the next day I got a call saying, yeah, you need to complete within 24 hours on the flat that you purchased 6 years or 5 years ago. Again, new build. Stay away from new builds. These things are horrible, right? So then I rang my solicitor. I was like, did you know about this? He was like, yeah, I thought the date was a month away or something like that, right? So he was like, yeah, well, you know, you need to come down. And I said, well, can you send me the paperwork so I can sign it and get it back to you? And he was like, well, you know, our policy is, I was dealing with different solicitors I don't deal with anymore. Our policy is you have to actually physically come in. I said, I will send you my ID, right? By scan and photo. I will send you all that. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the signed paper. They said, no, you actually have to physically be here to sign it. And I said, all right, where are you? They were like, we're in Leeds. I'm like, all right, that's 3.5 hours away. So at 9 p.m., I was driving to Leeds. I stayed overnight. And the lady was like, well, you know, we don't have to write papers. This is the next morning. We don't have to write papers. The right person's not here. I said, listen, if this doesn't complete, right, I've just lost about 50 or 60,000 pounds. So I'm staying here. This is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon now. And then she's like, well, you know, not a problem. It gets to 5 o'clock. And the lady's like, we don't have the right papers to be able to sign this off. You know, the right person's not in the office or whatever it was. I said, woman, we need to sign this off. And what do we need to do in order to make this happen? It got to 5:06 p.m. We signed off the paperwork, sent it off to the other party, house purchase, house complete. And I was like, we did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is remarkable. And you know what I'm hearing through all this? I'm hearing back what you said from the beginning with, you know, playing football, resilience. I'm hearing resilience because all those emotions coming at you, you know, with regards to obstacles, you're almost losing, but it's still so close. You're almost winning.
Yeah.
And it depends on the way you're looking at it. You could easily be looking at it as I'm almost losing, but you're looking at it with I'm almost winning, right? And that could put so many people off. And another thing that I hear is the questions you keep asking yourself. You ask yourself, how can I do this? What do I need to do so that I can get this done? Like you ask yourself, what do I need to do now so that I can have this 5-year plan? What do I need to do now so that I can get this property? What do I need to do now so that I can close without losing £60,000 deposit, right? And the questions, and what I'm hearing is that the questions we ask ourselves is so important, because if you start telling yourself, I want to ask actually, let me ask you guys, if you are telling yourself, oh, I've lost 60,000, you know, this is done, 24 hours, I'm still closing this house, and this other house is going, what would you have done if you had been telling yourself, I've lost it, I've lost 60,000, you know, this is a horrible story. Yeah, that's...
I'll probably be back in my mum's house telling you a story about how I lost £200,000 and now I'm broke.
Exactly. The questions we ask ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves really determine so much of what we will do next. Because just asking, how can I make this done in a year, get this done in a year, versus it can never happen. A year is too short. 5 years is too short. 10 years is too short. Changes the way our brain starts to find the answers. Changes the way our brain starts to find the answers. It changes the actions that we take and the things that we do. And that is really, 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 really remarkable. You have got a huge story to still tell everyone anyway. And of challenges, of overcoming challenges, of obstacles, and turning the obstacles into opportunities, and using those opportunities to grow your wealth.
Yes.
You've turned every obstacle into an opportunity to grow your wealth, to make more money for yourself. And that is so insightful, because right now we are in the pandemic and there are a lot of obstacles. People are facing a lot of obstacles and they are discouraged, and they are thinking like, you know, okay, 2020 is done. I don't think I can, you know, do anything. I don't think I can achieve my dreams. I don't think, or I've been set back so far. And how do we turn those obstacles, or how have you turned 2020 obstacles, which you did face? You did face obstacles in your education business, where you encourage and enlighten kids and help them build this resilience that you have. How can we turn those obstacles into opportunities?
I think one thing that you touched on really so powerfully there, Elizabeth, was your mindset. You've really got to shift your mindset, and your perspective becomes your reality, right? Because the neurological pathways in your brain are connected in a certain way, right? And the stronger, the more powerful, the more clear you are with what you say to yourself, the stronger those resilience muscles, the resilience neuroconnected pathways in your brain strengthen. When they strengthen, they start to operate and they start to connect with other wiring in the brain that then starts to create opportunities, right? So one practical thing that I would encourage people to do, and that I did in the pandemic, was simply to write down, what are my skills? Right? What are my skills? Where can I create value, right? So I wrote down speaking, I'm an author. I wrote down lots of different little things, different little skills that I have, right? A little mind map. And then I started to think, and I left that on my whiteboard for a couple of months before any action occurred, right? And I was speaking to people. I spoke to a few of my friends, and I said, what skills do I have that are valuable to others, right? So they told me the feedback and all this stuff. Okay, you've got leadership skills, you've got communication skills, you're great at writing, you're great at productivity. I said, okay, great, fantastic. And all of those things, I simply let them manifest in the back of my mind, right? And then months later, and then months later, I then started to create this thing called the money tracker. And I started to then list all of my expenses, list all of my incomes, and then started to think, where's all my money going, right? And then I was speaking to my cousin one day, and it's like, yeah, bro, what you been up to? And I said, look, I've been just like tracking my income and expenses. And I said, actually, you're very much in alignment with where I'm at in certain terms of finance and business and stuff. I said, I'll send it to you. So essentially I created a template for him and I sent it to him, and he was like, wow, bro, this is amazing. And then I kept on like speaking about it more and more on my WhatsApp stories, and then more and more people were saying to me, you know, this is fantastic, this is really, really good. So I ended up sending it to a few friends, and they was like, yeah, do you know what, like, this is like really working for me, thank you so much. So then I started putting it on Instagram, and I wasn't confident to put it on Instagram first. So I was like, oh, do you know what, people don't want to hear from me, people don't want to know about money. People are just going to think that I'm some kind of like some rich snob or something like that. I don't know, like I had running bad negative stories in my mind. I was like, I'm not going to put it on social because people are going to have negative things to say. But anyway, lo and behold, I put it on social, and people were saying to me, you know, where can I buy it? I said, great, you can buy it. And and you know, like literally like 20 days later, I had a website and everything else, and people started buying it on the website, and I was like, this is brilliant, you know. So really understanding like what your skills are, really understanding where you can add value to other people, and then really starting to put things in action that then start to produce results, right? And you're not gonna, like, I created lots of other little different things. I've created a productivity course. I haven't done anything with it yet. I've created lots of other little things, but you have to like really start to test the market. And again, it's like what I said at the beginning, right? It's invest your time, not your money, right? So when I created the money tracker, for example, I created it and recreated it about 25, 30 different times, right, before we have the product that we have now. But I didn't hesitate and go, actually, I need a website before I can sell it. No. Actually, I need to invest in marketing before I sell it. No. Actually, I need to invest in the product and get someone to oversee it and pay someone to make it look pretty. No. Like all of this, I just said, no, let me invest my time, right? And then I invested my time, and then the money that it's created was then allowed me to pay for the website. Right? So that's the way that you can build a business, is invest your time, not necessarily your money. And you invest the money later on once the time starts to pay dividends for you.
Yeah, that is awesome. So Corona hit, your business slowed down, and you checked within yourself to find out what skills do I have. And you found the skills that you had that you could monetize, and you are faced with fears. Oh, what if people don't like me? Who wants to hear from me? Trust me, I've had all those fears. Well, and those fears could have slowed you down, but you took action in spite of, what ifs and how about if this doesn't work, and if people don't like it, or if people think I'm a rich snob, or blah blah blah. And you took action. You put it out there anyway, and you've created another income stream for yourself. And that is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, we're coming to the end. If you guys have any questions, please do. I have one more question for you, Jazz. I forgot to ask this earlier. Did you eventually, when you bought your dream house, did you get the house that you put on your WhatsApp, or did you get a different one?
It was a different one. It was about about half the price and a lot more in alignment with what I actually wanted.
Okay, so you put anyway, but you put it, so literally what you're saying, and this kind of tells throughout your whole story. You put a goal out there that this is what I want. You're not fully sure how it's going to work out yet, but you put it out there. This is what I want, and then you just start moving towards it. Like when you bought your first property, you probably didn't know all about property. You didn't even know about refinancing. You didn't know about the joys and non-joys of buying a new build house versus buying an old house, I would call it. There were so many things that you learned on the go, but you didn't let what you didn't know stop you from taking action. And now in this pandemic, where you started, this money tracker, you didn't let what you didn't have, not having a website, not having a fancy design, stop you from taking action. When you bought your dream house, you didn't let not selling your 3 houses stop you from buying your house.
100%. One thing on that, one thing I want to touch on that in terms of the vision, right? So I had on my mirror in my wardrobe in my old house, right? I had a little post-it note, and it had a little picture of a house, like a little drawing, like simple pen, right? It said 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 3 car parking spaces on the driveway, and a cinema room, right? That was my criteria, right? So I knew that my dream home, I had to have those things. And then once I actually saw this property, and I was like, I want it, right? I said to myself, there is no more TV until I get this house, right? So I started now putting these post-it notes of my vision on the TV, right? And my sister came to my house and she said, why on earth do you have post-it notes on your TV? You are crazy. And I said, do you know what it says? And she said, no, I don't know what it says, but you are crazy. And I said, I'm not watching any TV until I move into my dream home, because my dream home is more important than anything that TV can teach or share with me right now. So every day I would write down what I want, What's my goal? What's my goal? What's my goal? And sometimes it would tweak and change, little things different, right? But it was that vision, that focus that enabled me to then create and recreate those obstacles into opportunities and make things happen.
That is so awesome. So you wrote down your goal every day. Now, what would you say to people who say, but I know what my goal is. It's the same thing I wrote down yesterday. Why do I need to write it down again?
Great question.
Why do I need to think about it again? Why do I need to look at it again? I know what it is. I remember it's in my heart. I already know what it is.
The question that I would ask people is this: have you ever lost your keys? Right. So almost all of us, right, without exception, have lost our keys, or if it's not our keys, we've lost something of importance that we usually know where it is, right? Why have you lost your keys? Why have you lost something of importance to you? Because the neurological pathways in the brain are not strongly connected to it at that moment in time. The brain, the mind, is a frequency of distraction, right? So everything that we're seeing, everything that we're hearing, everything that is coming into our physical and mental space is distracting us from where we want to get. Do not trust your mind. Your mind is a defense mechanism. It's there to keep you to survive, right? So you start to write these things down, you are strengthening the neurological pathways which move from obstacle to opportunity, which move from I can't to I can, or move from I can't to how can we, right? It starts to fire the neurological pathways in the brain, which start to operate more powerfully in alignment with that vision, right? I got to a stage where I moved into this house and I was like, I stopped doing it, right? I stopped writing down like things every day on little post-it notes. And then I got to a stage about 6 months, like, you know what, things are not working out for me. What am I doing differently? I've got lazy. I've started to miss this. So now I still do that same thing, right? And I write down what I want to create for that day. And something bad might happen, something challenging might happen. And you know what? I started to realize every single time that something negative happened in my life, right? I did not on that particular day write down a vision, write down a clear purpose and intention for that day. I crashed my car about 9 months ago and I was furious, Elizabeth, right? Because I was stupid. You know what I did? I reversed into a parked car, right? Stupid, right? I do dumb stuff, right? Happens to all of us, right? I reversed into a parked car because it's not usually there. And anyway, I reversed into a parked car. I was stupid, right? And I had to pay that cost. And I thought to myself, did I write down my vision and intention for the day? No. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm doing that every single day. And when something negative is about to happen, something challenging is about to happen, I always go back to that vision. It's automatic. I start to think, what did I create today? Oh, I created, I'm going to buy a property, or I created today, I'm going to do this, or I created today clarity, I created today abundance, I created today positive energy. I'm going to look for the positive thing in every person I communicate with. Someone can be telling me a really negative story, and then I can look for the positive in what they said, recreate it, empowers them to be more powerful for themselves. Those little things make massive difference to your future.
Yeah.
Massive.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Jazz. So like really writing it down, and guys, here's what happens when we write down these things. You know, you're literally walking your brain through the steps that it needs to take to create what you want. So you're walking your brain, you're saying that, oh, I'll tell you some of the things that I write down. I write down that in the morning that my kids like played without like destroying anything in the house, for example. And I'm so thankful to God for that. Like, and I'm literally like saying, you know, this is what is going to happen. And I know, and as the day starts and it goes forward, and this is an easy example, but it's also useful because this has to do with people who are not, like, I can't control, like literally, I'm not controlling their brain. So that's why I'm giving you this example. So, when I do that and I write, and not every day doesn't always work out that way. Some days they write on the walls and they've painted hair dye on one of my rooms as well, and on the mattresses and on the carpet. So it doesn't always happen that way. But as I write it down every day, what happens is that randomly during the day, I'm on my computer and I get up and I'm like, okay, where are the kids? Like, I can't hear them. And then I'm like, okay, let's go to the toilet. And then my younger son will pee in the toilet, as opposed to if I'd waited 5 more seconds, he might have peed on himself. This has happened so many times, right? Like he has, like, I have had like an inclination that, okay, I need to do this now, and I didn't, and then he peed on himself on the carpet. So I'm just giving you like, and then, but when like I'm writing it down, like I'm literally walking myself like, they are going to be great, they're going to be well behaved, they're going to be good. And I literally find that I'm doing things to ensure that, oh, they've eaten on time, they've drunk enough water, they're not dehydrated, they're entertained, they have toys to play with. I check on them, I give them hugs, so they're slightly happier, so they're happier with themselves and they play nicer that day. So that's like just a simple example, just, you know, to let you know, like literally as we're walking our brain through what we want to tell ourselves to do, it's like Jazz said, it like literally lives like a neurological pathway. Like you see a path in the grass, right? You see a huge lawn, a huge field, like in the parks, and then you see those paths where people can tread on, right? And you're literally creating that path from the entrance of your mind to the result that you literally want, right? And that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And before we go, you've given us so many tips. I'm going to remind some of us of some of them that are so useful. Track your money. This is the very first step that everyone can do right now so that they can start building wealth, right?
Yeah.
put some money aside for your future, right? Have that account saved where you're going to put in your savings, and you push yourself each time to save even more. And that is what you're going to use as your seed that you can now invest. If, for example, like Jazz invested in property, if you're going to invest in property yourself, or invest in anything, invest in your business, or invest in stocks or shares, or whatever investment vehicle, because literally investment vehicles are just vehicles to help you grow your wealth. So you have something to invest in. It gives you options. Then with those options, you decide for yourself, as Jazz said, what is your own 5-year plan? And actually, I think I just saw a question. Someone asked, what was Jazz's financial goal? So please, Jazz, I would like you to answer that question, but after I finish the summary. So, so you set for yourself your own 5-year plan, your own 10-year plan, your own 6-month plan, and you walk backwards to today. What do I need to do today to push myself towards this? And you know that fears are going to come up. What if? Obstacles are going to come up from third parties. Something didn't work out, a new bill, a new obstacle, a new thing that's just is going to try and hold you back. And doubts are going to come up in your mind. And Jazz has told us, don't trust your mind. Your mind is there to keep you safe. It's not there to make you wealthy. It's not there to make you financially abundant. It's not there to make you successful. It's just there to make sure you don't die, right? And that's what your mind is there, to keep you safe, to keep you protected, to keep you on the path that you've been on from birth that has kept you safe up until now. And then, then you can start investing in property and you can scale up. And one of the ways that Jazz has talked about scaling up is by refinancing in assets, refinancing and investing in assets, right? Not in liabilities. No, and so but when we're talking about assets and liabilities, you have to have a clear picture of what exactly is an asset and what exactly is a liability. I guess the main difference is an asset is something that's going to make money for you, and a liability is something that will not make money for you. So think about that. And if you don't know, if you're unsure, definitely get some help and get some clarity on if the decision you're going to make is an asset or it's a liability. And as you invest in assets, those assets, if you do the maths, and Jazz has shared with us all the maths, if you do the maths, you can find out how much you are going to be making from that new property, the new second property, and if it can pay off the mortgage and pay off the bills as well. And that way, the biggest step is getting in the door, through the door, and getting that first property. And if you keep on investing in real good assets every 2 years, in 10 years, you can have 5 properties on yourself just with the money that you use to invest in the first one. And you can have properties that are still making money for you and making your money work for you. And then your net worth is constantly growing and expanding. And then you have what Jazz calls financial independence, where his investments taking care of his lifestyle costs, so he doesn't literally have to work for money. Now he can do things that fund his life and his passions. He spoke about how time is our greatest value, right? Time is our greatest value. So, and what we do with our time is so important. What we do, our purpose, and if we're achieving our purpose and doing what our soul's purpose is. For Jazz, part of his soul's purpose is, impacting children and building confidence in children and exposing them to things that they can become and increasing their resilience. And he's able to do that easily. And then we spoke about, unexpected obstacles like a pandemic, and how in this situation where one of his businesses closed down, where he couldn't go into schools anymore to teach children, he looked within. What do I have? What skills do I have? And how can I use them to help people become better? And he found new skills from within him. They've always been there. It's not like they just jumped out of the sky. Those skills have always been there, and they've been growing through the obstacles. They've been growing through the trials, through the tribulations. And as they were growing, and he decided to bring them to light, the fears came as well. What if, what if, what if? But he pushed past the fears and still put out this money tracker that is helping dozens of people all over the UK now. And now he's, from that, he didn't allow not having the right tech or not having the right anything that you want stop him from, pushing forward again. So he put it out without a website, and then he started making money from it, and then he used that to finance his dream. He's literally using his talents to make money from him. He uses his money to make money from him. He uses his energy to make money from him, and he uses his time to make money from him. But many of us keep saying to ourselves, I don't have time, I'm tired, and I don't have money. Well, if you don't have money, you need time and energy. If you don't have time, you need money and energy. And if you don't have energy, you need money and time. You need to have something to put down as your seed. So you don't need to build wealth from wealth. You don't need money to make money, but you need to have the time to invest, the time to allow things to grow with time, the time to keep pushing past obstacles. And you need the energy to push past your own mental barriers, the energy to keep moving and pushing past in your physical body. Or if you don't have that, then you hire someone to do the work for you, right? And that's where the money comes in. So if you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't have the money, then you're going to remain stuck. You need to have something to invest in yourself. You need a seed. You need to have a seed to plant so that you can build this beautiful tree of life that you're trying to build for yourself. Thank you so much for that. Was there anything that I missed from that, please?
You know what? I think that's the best summary I've ever heard in my life. That is absolutely spot on. That's brilliant. Amazing.
So Jazz, I want to ask you two things. What was your financial goal? And please, can you drop your money tracker in the link for us?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Let me do that straight away.
Okay, scrolling up to see messages. Very encouraging words of wisdom from Omar Day. Thank you so much. Will you be putting up and sharing the recording? Yes, D Mensa, I will be putting up and sharing the recording. If you are registered, then you will automatically get the recording once it's ready. If you're registered in the link, then you automatically get the recording once it's ready. Yeah, great. So if you guys have any questions before we end, please drop them in. But I want to ask you, thank you so much, Jazz, for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing, squashing you started, what has it been, since you bought your first property, how many years has it been?
2007. No, whenever, 2009, 11 years. 11 years.
For squashing 11 years of investing into like 1 hour and squashing like your whole lifetime of mindset into like the last an hour and a half. Thank you so much. If you have 3 tips or any tip at all that you have for that you would advise us or remind us of, what would that be? What would that be if you have? And for us in the chat, please write down what you have learned from this session. Please let everyone, I can see everyone who's here as Jazz is summarizing, and he's giving us 3 either maybe mindset hacks or tips for success for everyone who's trying to build their wealth from little. Guys, please put down in the chat. 1, when you're putting down in the chat what you've learned, you're also helping someone else. Someone might have missed something that you learned. Someone might have missed something that was said. And when you put it down, you're encouraging and you're helping someone else. Second thing, you are also reminding yourself, just like Jazz was saying, he wrote down things that he wanted every day on his TV. You're also reminding yourself what what you've learned and what you want to remember. So if you've learned anything that you want to remember, please put it down in the chat. It will bless other people and it will bless you even more because you're learning it twice. Thank you. Well done. So Justina said to be bold. Okay, great. And I want to talk about being bold just for 5 seconds. Is that Jazz picked his risks very carefully based on what he wanted. You know, he picked his risks. In the beginning, he didn't invest a lot of money. He was investing time and energy. He didn't want to invest money. He picked what he was going to put his money to and what he wasn't going to put his money to. And that was because he knew exactly what he wanted. So yeah, so it's important to be bold in for what you want to get, right? Simone says, I've learned that you don't need a lot of money to become wealthy. You need time and energy. Yeah, you definitely need something. It doesn't have to be money, but if it's not money, then you need to put in time. You need to put in energy. Time working on yourself. Time working on your craft. If you have a business, or time, you know, researching and learning, and the energy to keep on moving. He only says you can achieve your lifetime's goals if you're willing to invest your time, your skills, your energy, and make the right decision. Don't waste money on life. Exactly. And here's something about achieving your lifetime goals. Jazz squashed a 5-year goal into 12 months. He squashed a 5-year goal into 12 months because he asked himself, how can I make this work? And that is so key, because I know for so many people, you're like, oh, will I ever, it's so long. Will I ever, I have a 20-year goal. It's so big. I have a 15-year goal. So then decide, you know, he had a 5-year goal to buy to buy a dream house, right? He squashed it into a year and he bought a dream house. He bought the house that he wanted. And for you as well, if you decide that, okay, your 10-year goal, you're going to squash it into 5. You can do that if you decide that you're going to do it. You're going to face obstacles. You're going to face a lot of trials, you know, when you want to squish it into a short time. Just like Jazz faced 3 like consecutive losses in his houses, you know, back to back. It's like the stresses that should have been taken 5 years, maybe brought instrumentally over 5 years, was all squashed into a year. And we have to be ready to keep pushing despite any kind of obstacle, and be ready to switch those obstacles into opportunities. Yeah, to write my goal and intention day. Yes, yes, yes. Because you're working your brain through the pathways that you wanted to take that day. My biggest takeaway is that it's important to write down, your long-term goals and take small steps daily to work towards it. Exactly. And Jazz has put down his Instagram account. Guys, you can add him and buzz him up with questions, and, you know, follow him as well. He has loads of useful content. To get new friends. His friend said not 5 years, one friend. Yeah, 1 year. My friends will say not possible. Oh, that is a great one. Great. I want to give that a clap. Yeah, it's true. It's true. His friend told him, you can do this in 1 year. His friend saw potential in him, even though he hadn't done it yet. But he could have said, his friend could have said, you're a dreamer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he would have said, okay, maybe instead of 5 years, I'll stretch it to 7, I'll stretch it to 10. But he's you're so right, Demons. Like, make sure you're surrounded with people who are giving you encouragement. Your circle of influence is so important. They literally influence you to be better or to stay stuck. It's never too late to start. Jazz, what do you have to say about that?
It's never too late to start, you know. Like, start now, start today. The only time we have is the present, you know. The future doesn't exist, the past doesn't exist. The only time we have is now. Time is a man-made creation. We are living in the present now. It is beautiful. Everything around us is abundant. There's so much positive frequency. There's so much energy in the world that is happening. We've now got to be our participant in that world and create the energies and the vibrations and the frequencies that is right for us to prosper, right? You have to plant the seed for your success, right? Nobody's going to plant it for you. So look outside, you know, look at the beauty, look at the if you think that, sometimes I just look up to the sky and be like, this is a brilliant creation. And someone could be like, oh, it's such a bad day, it's raining. Look at the sky, it's beautiful. Can you imagine what we would be like without a sky? Huh? like, you know, we've been provided with so much resource. You don't have to be rich, but you have to use your resources, right? And then you can become rich, right? So it's using our resources, manifesting what we want, creating the frequency and the vibration that we want in our life, and then moving forward powerfully with it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So please, could you share with us your 3 tips, 3 hacks, anything that you have for us as before we say goodbye?
Yeah, absolutely. I think someone asked what my financial goal was
Oh,
as
yes.
well. I think this is, yeah, someone asked what my financial goal was, and it's quite simple, right? It's to be able to have a passive income that pays for my expenses and my lifestyle, right? So that's the goal. That's the financial freedom goal. And in terms of 3 tips, I would say make sure that you set clear goals, and set your intentions daily in order to create those goals. So my goal might be X, right? And these are the intentions, that these are the actions that I need to take every single day in order to move forward towards that goal. So one thing that you might want to do, for example, is put up like a big vision board. Like you can see, I've got one here, right? So that's my vision, right? And then every day I'd write down my intention that I'm going to utilize in order to get to that vision, right? What am I going to do today? It might be having a great day with your kids. It might be going out to the park. It might be, whatever. It might be cleaning your house. Like, but make sure that it's clear and it's intentional. And then the second thing is, make sure that you track your income and expenses. Again, like you said, Elizabeth, so many people think, oh yeah, but I know it's around about this, it's round about that, and they're always going around the roundabout and never wondering why they don't get to the destination, right? Because you're constantly going around about, you're not clear, right? Get clarity on where your money is, how much money you're taking in, how much money is going out. Why? Because then it starts to fire the neurological pathways of A, I need to make more money, how can I do that? Or B, I need to cut my expenses, how can I do that? Right? So these are the sorts of things that we can do in terms of tracking our expenses. Starts to fire the neurological pathways in the brain that start to then take actions that we didn't even thought was there or available before. And finally, you touched on it in the final bit of the conversation, Elizabeth, is be around like-minded people. Be around growth-oriented people. I read something many years ago which said have 33% of your friends that are working towards where you're getting to, have 33% who are on the same sort of level, and about 33% who are 3 or 4 years ahead of you in terms of where you want to get to, right? And I think that's a really powerful way to look at your friendship circle and your network, is always be around people who are A, ahead of you, B, where you are, and C, working towards. Why? But why C? Why do you want to be around people that are working towards where you're trying to get to? Because you can help them up, right? And by you helping them up, you're actually empowering your own vision. You're actually standing in a space of authenticity and power that is able to pull other people up. And by standing in that authenticity and in that power, it refires the psychological pathways in your brain and makes sure that you are on a straight path to where you're getting to. So if I say, okay, I'm on this frequency, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm creating, and then I'm a negative example to someone else who I'm helping pull up, that's not going to work. So they empower you subconsciously to keep on track with where you're going, right? And the people that are ahead of you, of course, they, like my friend, right? Like my friend, he told me 1 year. Most of my friends said, oh, bro, that's great. Those are the people that are on my frequencies. They're on my level. Of course, they're going to say that. They said, oh, 5 years, brilliant. You can do it. Encouragement. So you need that. And then you need the person that's outside of that space, that's ahead of where you are, that's going to say, no, you can do it in 1. And that's it. So make sure, set your goals, track your income and expenses using the money tracker, and then you get around great people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're so happy that we're around you. Thank you so much. And guys, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate each and every single one of you. You joined, you stayed all the way to the end. It shows resilience on your part. It also shows that you guys are determined to get what you want. And I truly believe that you guys, every one of us will, God willing, will get all our heart's desires, as we stretch and we push ourselves and we take action towards them. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you so much, Jazz, for sharing all your words of wisdom with us, and literally the practical steps to building wealth from little. So I'm Elizabeth Buko. I'm the founder of Wealth from Little, and it has been a pleasure being involved in this conversation today. Jazz has dropped his email address, he's dropped his website so you can access the money tracker. He's dropped his Instagram, you can follow him. And if you have any questions, don't stay stuck. send out an email. You have my email addresses. If you have any questions, you want to start creating your wealth and you don't know how to do it, you feel like you're always going around in circles and you're trying to turn obstacles into opportunities, you don't know how to do that, send out, send a request, send an SOS, ask for help. The worst thing that you can do is remain stuck and then stay in the same cycle for another 5 years. Set your intention, set your goal. Where do you want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, as Jazz said? Okay, thank you all so much. We're going to end this here. And it's been a pleasure being with you all. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Jazz.
Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.